In the year 2427, Earth stood united under one banner. The chaos of nations and borders had ended after centuries of war, leaving only one city-state that ruled them all, Nova Gaia. Towering spires pierced the clouds, gleaming with solar glass and steel. Peace had become Earth's most valuable treasure, guarded by satellites, AI, and humanity's most powerful fleet. Commander Jace Riven stood at the main window of Orbital Command Tower 7, high above Nova Gaia. His sharp eyes followed the slow movement of stars and ships across the black sky. He had spent most of his life in space, patrolling, commanding, defending. Today he was on Earth, assigned to security for the most important event in modern history, the peace summit between Earth and the Galactic Union. Jace was 32, tall and lean, with a hard face shaped by war and silence. He wore the grey and black uniform of the Earth Defense Force. His rank insignia shimmered against his chest, though he took no pride in it. Medals meant little to him. Only duty mattered. Below him, the Grand Assembly Dome glowed blue. Inside, Chancellor Alara Voss, the leader of Earth, was meeting with representatives of the Galactic Union, a powerful alliance of alien civilizations. Tension had been rising between the Union and Earth since humans had begun expanding into deep space. Resources, territory, and distrust had pushed both sides to the brink. But today was meant to change that. Today was meant to begin a new era. The peace talks had taken years to arrange. Earth had sent its best diplomats. The Union had responded with care, sending high-ranking envoys and even military commanders. The entire summit was being broadcast across the planet and to nearby colonies. Billions watched, hopeful. But hope is fragile. At 1542 Standard Time, it happened. A single high-pitched alert echoed through the command tower. The tracking officer's voice cracked. Orbital anomaly detected. Trajectory locked on Assembly Dome. Jace spun around. Source. The officer stared at his screen, frozen. Coming from low orbit, weapon signature confirmed. Impact in 5 seconds. Jace's blood turned cold. Sound the alarm. Activate shield grid. But 5 seconds was too short. From above, a narrow beam of blue light lanced through the sky. It struck the top of the assembly dome with pinpoint accuracy. For a moment there was only silence. Then the explosion ripped the dome apart. The blast was bright, blinding, and silent in the vacuum. A ring of fire erupted through the atmosphere, flattening trees, shattering glass, and sending people flying. The shock wave reached the tower and rocked it hard. Jace grabbed the railing and held on. Alarms wailed across the city. Smoke rose from the heart of Nova Gaia. The assembly dome was gone. Jace's hands trembled slightly, but his voice remained steady. Damage report. Another officer spoke, pale as a ghost. The Chancellor's dead. All summit delegates confirmed casualties. Total loss. The room fell silent. Jace looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there a ship had fired that shot. "Do we know who did it?" he asked quietly. "Yes, sir." The officer's voice cracked again. The beam was fired from an orbital platform, registered to the Galactic Union. Silence stretched across the room like a funeral cloth. Jace closed his eyes. The fragile peace was gone. The Chancellor, the one woman who had held Earth together, was dead, and the blame, whether true or false, pointed to the Union. Hours later, Earth's Emergency Council broadcast a message to all systems. The Chancellor had been assassinated by an act of alien aggression. The peace was over. Retaliation would be swift. Jace was summoned to the High Command Chamber. The remaining generals stood around a circular table, grim-faced. Holograms of destroyed buildings and fiery skies played silently behind them. "You've served Earth well, Riven," General Solon said. "Now we need you to lead." Jace bowed slightly. "Orders, sir." "You are now Supreme Commander of Earth's Retaliation Fleet. Prepare Tempest 1. Launch at once." Jace accepted the command without a word. He knew war. He hated it. But this war had come to them. Whoever had pulled the trigger had broken something sacred, and the world demanded justice. No, vengeance. As night fell over Nova Gaia, The first of Earth's warships lifted off into the stars. The sky burned with engines, and the people below watched in silence. The galaxy had taken their leader. Now humanity would show them their fury. The sky over Nova Gaia was no longer a symbol of peace. It was now the road to war. Commander Jace Riven stood on the bridge of Tempest 1, Earth's most advanced battleship. The ship was a massive dark vessel, heavily armored with sharp edges and pulse cannons lining its hull. Designed for defense, it had never seen real battle. Now it led a fleet of 30 warships into space. The launch was swift. Earth's Defense Council had wasted no time. Within 24 hours of Chancellor Voss's assassination, Jace and his fleet were on a direct course to Sector Vanta 3, where the Galactic Union maintained a communication relay and outpost. The Council's orders were clear: strike fast, strike hard, and send a message. Jace stood at the front of the bridge, arms behind his back, watching the stars stretch as they entered slipstream. His mind was quiet, but inside he felt the weight of what was coming. "Status report," he said. Lieutenant Mara Kell, his second-in-command, stepped forward. She was younger than Jace, sharp-eyed and focused. "All ships holding formation. Weapons armed. We'll reach the Union outpost in 10 minutes. Jace nodded. He turned toward the crew. Dozens of officers sat at stations around him, hands moving across glowing consoles. "Everyone," Jace spoke, voice clear and steady, "we are about to enter combat. Most of you have trained for this, but never seen the real thing. Let me be direct. This won't be easy. The Union may not have expected this, but they won't be unprepared. Keep your focus. Trust your training. And remember who we're doing this for." He paused. No one spoke. The silence was full of grief and anger. "For Earth. For the Chancellor," he said. A soft chorus of voices repeated, "For Earth. For the Chancellor." Then the countdown began, 10 minutes to drop. Outside, stars flickered past like rain. The fleet moved like a silent arrow. Jace stared at the holographic map showing their target, Outpost Zeta, a communication hub orbiting a small moon near a red dwarf. The Union had used it to monitor traffic in nearby systems. It was lightly defended. The fleet dropped from slipstream with a thunderous vibration. Tempest 1 emerged first, followed by the rest of the fleet in tight formation. The Union outpost appeared on the screen. A silver ring of satellites circled the moon. A few defense frigates patrolled slowly, unaware of the storm coming. Jace didn't hesitate. Engage. Within seconds, Earth's ships lit up the sky. Plasma beams and missile trails streaked through the void. The Union's ships scrambled to respond. Alarms rang across their channels, but it was too late. The first wave of Earth's attack struck true. The outpost's outer defenses were crippled. 2 Union frigates were destroyed in minutes. Explosions flashed like lightning in the dark. On Tempest 1, the crew moved like clockwork. Target locked, shields at 84%. Union cruiser approaching from starboard. Jace watched calmly. "Focus fire on that cruiser. Keep the flagship covered." The battle intensified. The Union finally regrouped. 3 more cruisers arrived through a nearby wormhole gate. They began returning fire. One of Earth's destroyers, Vanguard, took a direct hit and went dark. Jace clenched his jaw. Losses were beginning. Then a transmission came through. Encrypted. Urgent. "Commander Riven, this is Union ship Virella. You are attacking a diplomatic relay. This action is a violation of peace accords. Cease fire or face full retaliation." Jace stared at the message. There was no emotion in the voice, only authority. He responded without delay. "You killed our Chancellor. The accords mean nothing now." No answer came back. More Earth ships closed in. The Union cruisers fought hard, but their numbers were few. One by one they fell. The relay station was damaged, its core beginning to fail. Jace gave the final order: disable their last comms, then pull the fleet back. "We send a message, not total destruction." "Understood, Commander," Kell replied. By the end of the battle, the outpost was in ruins. The moon it orbited was scarred by debris and fire. Over 100 lives, human and alien, had been lost in under 20 minutes. Earth had made its move, and the galaxy was watching. The fleet returned to safe space near Jupiter's outer belt. Medical crews worked around the clock. Damage was assessed. Morning had already begun. Jace sat alone in his quarters, staring at a photo of Chancellor Voss. She had once told him, "True peace is louder than any war, but only if people choose to hear it." Now her voice was gone, and the galaxy had chosen to fight. A soft chime rang at his door. "Come in," Jace said. Lieutenant Kell entered. "We've received a reply from the Union." "Not a declaration. A warning." Jace raised an eyebrow. "What kind of warning?" She handed him the data pad. The message was simple. "You are wrong, but you will learn the truth, Commander Riven." Soon Jace stared at the words. Something didn't sit right. If the Union had killed the Chancellor, why were they still trying to talk? His mind, trained for battle, now began to question. Something was off, but answers would have to wait. For now Earth had struck its first blow, and war had truly begun. 3 days had passed since Earth's attack on the Union outpost at Sector Vanta 3. The battle had been a clear victory for Earth's fleet, but Commander Jace Riven felt no pride. As Tempest 1 floated silently in the orbit of Jupiter's farthest moon, the mood aboard the ship had changed. The crew had won, but they had seen death. They had seen friends lost. They had seen the horror of real war. Jace stood alone in the observation deck. The vastness of space stretched before him. Stars blinked quietly in the black. Debris from their first battle still floated in the distance. Somewhere out there the Galactic Union was watching, waiting for Earth's next move. And yet something didn't sit right in Jace's gut. The enemy hadn't fought the way he expected. Their defense had been weak, unprepared. Their reply cold but not enraged. And that message, "You are wrong, but you will learn the truth, Commander Riven." He couldn't forget those words. "Commander," came Kell's voice from behind. "We have a transmission, unsecured, origin unknown." "It's strange." Jace turned. "Play it." The main screen lit up. A cloaked figure appeared. The voice was altered, robotic. "Commander Riven, I am not your enemy. I speak for those who still believe in peace. What you saw, what you were told, is not the full truth. The attack that killed Chancellor Voss did not come from the Union." Jace narrowed his eyes. "Then who fired it?" The figure paused. "That information would get me killed. But I can give you a start. Access your ship's deep tracking logs. Look at the energy signature of the strike. Compare it to known Union weapons. It will not match." Before Jace could respond, the screen went black. "Signal lost," Kell said, confused. "We couldn't trace it." Jace didn't speak. He turned to the console and ordered the logs. The moment of the assassination was stored deep in the ship's database. Earth's military tech recorded everything. The plasma strike that killed the Chancellor had a unique energy pattern. Jace ran the scan. His hands moved quickly over the controls. Then he compared it to the Union's known weapon signatures. He waited. The computer beeped. "Match 0%. Jace's heart stopped for a moment. "Lieutenant," he said quietly, "run it again. Use Union archives, any recorded battle data. Cross-check with ship-mounted orbital weapons." She did. The result was the same. The weapon that had killed the Chancellor did not belong to the Galactic Union. "Sir, if that's true." Kell looked shaken. "Then we attacked the wrong enemy." Jace nodded slowly. "Or someone wanted us to believe we didn't." He stood up, walked toward the map table, and looked at the star chart. Someone had planted a lie. Someone had framed the Union, and Earth had fallen for it. He remembered the Chancellor's words again. Peace must be louder than war. She had worked for years to build trust with the Union. Would they really destroy her? Jace's doubts grew stronger. He called a secret meeting with his closest officers. They sat in a quiet chamber below the main deck. He told them what he had discovered. Some were shocked. Some were angry. Others refused to believe it. "We can't ignore this," Jace said. "There's a chance we've started a war based on false information." "But who would do that?" asked Captain Harlan, head of fleet security. "Who would risk everything?" Jace had a theory, but no proof yet. "Someone with power. Someone who gains from war," he said. Then the ship's alert chimed again. Another transmission, this time encrypted, but traceable. Source: outer orbit of Mars. Civilian vessel, said Kel. Jace opened the channel. An alien face appeared on screen. Pale blue skin, sharp black eyes. Not Union military, an envoy. I am Vex Naren, the figure said. I served as a diplomatic aide to Chancellor Voss. I went into hiding after the strike. I have proof the Chancellor was betrayed. Jace leaned forward. Send the data, now. Within minutes, the files were downloaded. Video logs, voice recordings, and transmission records. The final piece stopped Jace cold. A message from one of Earth's own defense stations, coded hidden, sent just 2 minutes before the attack. It rerouted orbital defense control for 17 seconds, just long enough to allow the plasma strike. Internal sabotage, Jace said aloud. Someone from Earth help planet. Kel stared at him. What do we do now? Jace knew the answer, but it came with a price. We find out who did this, and we expose them. But we keep this quiet, for now. If the truth leaks too early, we'll lose control of the fleet. Or worse, Earth won't believe us. Kel nodded slowly. And if it was someone high up? She asked. Jace looked out into space. Then even the stars won't be far enough to hide them. As the Tempest One returned to deep space, Jace felt a shift in his mission. He had been sent to fight the Union. Now he would fight the lies. He would search through the shadows behind the war, and he would find the truth, no matter what it cost. The stars above looked cold and distant as Tempest One approached the neutral border zone of Sector Halen. It was here, between two suns and a silent asteroid field, that Commander Jace Riven arranged the most dangerous meeting of his life. He had sent a coded message to the Galactic Union, directly to High Executor Thal Zir. A week had passed since the outpost attack, and Jace's mind had changed. He no longer saw the Union as the enemy. The data from Vex Naren had made things clear. The Chancellor was not killed by the Union. Someone on Earth had rerouted the orbital defenses, making the strike possible. Someone had framed the aliens, and Earth had rushed to war without asking questions. Now Jace wanted answers, and only the Union's leader could help him. The command bridge was quiet as the Union warship appeared from Slipstream. It was massive, twice the size of Tempest One, glowing with silver-blue armor and smooth curves. No weapons aimed, no signs of aggression. Commander Lieutenant Kel said, "We're receiving their docking code. They've agreed to come aboard." Jace nodded. "Prepare the chamber. No weapons, no traps. This has to be real." An hour later, the airlock hissed open. High Executor Thal Zir stepped inside. He was tall and slim. His pale lavender skin stretched over sharp bones. His eyes glowed a faint violet. He wore no armor, only a deep blue robe with golden threads. He looked calm, collected, but there was strength in his gaze. "Commander Riven," he said, in a deep, formal voice. "I came because you asked with honesty. That is rare from your kind." Jace kept his tone level. "And you came because you want this war to end." Thal Zir tilted his head slightly. "I came because someone wants us to destroy each other. But I refuse to fight a war built on lies." They sat across from each other in the chamber. The room was guarded by silence, not soldiers. Just the two commanders, both once enemies, now forced to talk. Jace showed Thal Zir the evidence: plasma signature mismatches, hidden codes, internal sabotage. The Union leader studied each piece carefully. "We knew this," Thal Zir finally said. "We knew the weapon wasn't ours. But when your fleet attacked, we believed your leaders had abandoned truth." "I didn't have the truth then," Jace admitted. "I do now, and I want to stop this before it gets worse." Thal Zir's gaze narrowed. "Then you must understand what we face. My council is angry. Many call for a full invasion. Earth struck first, and some of your leaders want this war to go on." "I know," Jace said. "I think I know who ordered it. Earth's own defense minister, Garen Voss." Thal Zir's eyes widened. "He was close to your chancellor. She trusted him." Jace nodded slowly. "And he used that trust to remove her. With her gone, he gained control of the War Council. He speaks of justice, but he wants power." The High Executor sat back in thought. "Then we must act before he does again," he said. Just as they were about to plan their next move, the ship's alarm blared. "Commander," Kel's voice shouted over comms, "unidentified fleet incoming, Earth signatures. They're heading straight for us." Jace stood quickly. "How many?" 10 warships, armed and ready." Jace turned to Thalzir. "He knows. Garen Voss found out we were talking." Thalzir rose calmly. "Then the trap is set for both of us." On the bridge, the scene was tense. Earth's ships approached fast. No hails, no messages. "They're locking weapons," Kel said, "targeting us and the Union vessel." Jace stepped forward. "Open a channel." "To Earth Fleet Command." No response. "They're not here to talk," Jace said. "They're here to silence us." The Union ship powered up its shields. Jace ordered the same. "I never thought I'd fight Earth ships," he said, through clenched teeth. "Nor did I think I'd defend a human," Thalzir replied. The battle began in seconds. Plasma beams lit up the dark space. Tempest 1 and the Union ship fought side by side, covering each other's blind spots, blasting through the rogue fleet. These Earth ships were not acting under official orders. They answered to Garen Voss, and they were relentless. Jace barked commands. "Target their lead ship. Disable, don't destroy. They're jamming communications," Kel said. "We can't reach anyone on Earth." The fight was brutal. One of the Union ships was heavily damaged. A human frigate was torn apart. Fire burned through the vacuum. Space was no longer silent. Then came the moment Jace feared. His ship took a direct hit. Systems flickered. Hull pressure dropped in one wing. Crew were injured, but they fought on. Finally, the Union cruiser broke through the line. It blasted the Earth Fleet's command ship, disabling it. The remaining vessels retreated into slipstream, vanishing into the stars. The battlefield fell quiet. Jace stood on the bridge, breathing heavily. Kel turned to him. "What now?" "We just survived an assassination attempt," Jace said. "That means we're close. Garen Voss knows we have enough to bring him down." Thalzir appeared on the screen, calm even in victory. "You have my support, Commander. I will return to my council with the truth." Jace nodded. "And I'll go back to Earth." He stared into the black sky. "It's time we finished this." The lies were ending, and the final battle was coming, not between worlds, but between truth and the man who had nearly destroyed everything. The journey back to Earth was short, but every second felt heavy. Tempest 1 moved through slipstream with silent urgency. Commander Jace Riven stood alone in his quarters, eyes locked on a small data chip in his hand. On it were the voice logs, encrypted files, and security recordings that tied Earth's defense minister, Garen Voss, to the assassination of Chancellor Voss. It was all the proof he needed. The problem was how to use it. The rogue Earth fleet's attack had failed, but Garen Voss wouldn't stop. He had power, influence, and control of most of the Defense Council. If Jace returned openly, he'd be branded a traitor before the truth ever reached the public. But Jace had a plan. As Tempest 1 entered Earth's orbit, the crew received a high-priority transmission. "From Defense Headquarters," Kel said. "They're demanding we dock immediately. They say you're to be taken into custody." Jace nodded, unsurprised. "That confirms it. He's moving faster than I expected." Kel looked concerned. "Do we fight back?" "No. We don't give them a reason to call us rebels," Jace said. "But we don't walk into a trap either." He activated the ship-wide channel. "This is Commander Riven. We are returning under hostile command. You all know what we've discovered. I won't force you to follow me. But I ask you, stand for the truth. Not for me, not for the Union, but for Earth." There was a pause. Then, one by one, the crew confirmed they were with him. Jace moved quickly. With help from his engineers, he rerouted Tempest 1's data core to broadcast directly into Earth's public news net. It was risky, but if the people heard the truth, Voss couldn't hide anymore. "Begin transmission," Jace ordered. Across Earth and nearby colonies, screens lit up. The broadcast showed clear proof: the altered orbital codes, the sabotage of defense systems, the voice of Garen Voss ordering the override just before the Chancellor's death. The final recording was the hardest to hear. Alara Voss herself, in a private conversation recorded days before her death. I fear someone close to me is pushing for war. I see it in his eyes. I pray I'm wrong. But if anything happens to me, don't let anger blind us." Her voice faded into silence. The world froze, and then it erupted. Within hours, Earth's media exploded. Crowds filled the streets of Nova Gaia. Protests turned into demands. Truth spread like fire through dry grass. Defense Minister Garen Voss responded with a single statement: lies, enemy propaganda. Riven has betrayed Earth, but it was too late. Inside Defense Command, Voss stood with his generals, some loyal, others uncertain. "Seal the city," he ordered. "Send units to capture Tempest 1. Bring Riven to me, alive or dead." But even as he gave the order, loyalist officers began to walk away. Tempest 1 hovered just outside the city's no-fly zone. Jace watched as chaos unfolded below. Kel turned to him. "We're receiving signals, ships from Earth's fleet. Some are defecting. They're joining us." "Good," Jace said. "Then we strike now." Jace led a landing team himself. They descended into Nova Gaia, under cover of darkness. Union allies provided stealth codes to slip through defense systems undetected. Their target, Defense Tower 0, Voss's stronghold. The city below was tense. Troops loyal to Voss marched the streets, trying to regain control, but many had already abandoned their posts. Some stood and watched as Jace's team passed, some even saluted. Inside the tower, Voss waited in his command chamber, armored and surrounded by private guards. He knew Riven was coming. "You should have stayed in space," Voss muttered. But the doors blew open minutes later. Smoke and sparks filled the hallway. Jace entered, weapon raised, flanked by Kel and a dozen loyal soldiers. Voss drew his sidearm, firing without a word. Kel returned fire. Blasts cracked through the room. A guard fell. Another dropped his weapon and surrendered. Jace advanced, dodging behind the central console. "Garen Voss, it's over. You think a truth broadcast changes anything?" Voss shouted. "You think people want peace? They want vengeance. And I gave them someone to blame." "You killed the one person who believed in peace," Jace said. "You lied to the world." Voss stepped out, aiming his pistol at Jace. She was weak. She hesitated. "I did what needed to be done." A shot rang out. Voss's weapon dropped. He staggered, a clean hit to the leg. Kel had fired. Jace stepped forward, unarmed. "Now, no more running, Garen. You'll face the world you tried to control." Guards stormed in, this time Earth loyalists. They arrested Voss without resistance. Outside, the city lit up with celebration and sorrow. The war wasn't over, but the man who started it was finished. Later that night, Jace stood at Chancellor Voss's memorial. Her statue overlooked the city square, flowers and messages piled at its base. Kel joined him. "It's done," she said. "No," Jace said softly. "Now comes the harder part, rebuilding what he broke." He looked up at the stars. Somewhere the Union was watching too. Tomorrow they would talk again, but not as enemies, as survivors of the same storm. The sun rose slowly over Nova Gaia, casting a soft golden light on a world forever changed. The city was still recovering. Broken glass, collapsed towers, and scorched streets reminded everyone of how close Earth had come to destroying itself. But now, for the first time in weeks, people were hopeful. The voice of truth had been louder than the lies. Garen Voss, the architect of war, had been arrested. The people had seen the evidence with their own eyes, and the world had listened. Commander Jace Riven stood on a balcony at the top of Unity Hall, once a secondary command post, now transformed into the temporary heart of Earth's government. From here, he could see the rebuilding efforts. Civilian drones hovered over damaged buildings. Crowds worked together to clear streets and restore power. The Earth Defense Force had been reshaped almost overnight. Corrupt officers removed, honest leaders promoted. The war with the Galactic Union had been stopped before it could grow worse. No more attacks had come since the battle in space. No more ships had been launched. Earth and the Union now stood at the edge of something new. "Commander Riven," a voice said behind him. He turned to see Lieutenant Kel, dressed in formal black uniform, her face calm but focused. She held a datapad in her hand. "The Union delegation has arrived," she said. "They're waiting in the Chancellor's council room." Jace nodded. "Let's not make them wait." The council room had been rebuilt quickly. A large circular table now filled the center, surrounded by screens showing live feeds from Earth cities, space stations, and nearby colonies. Flags of Earth and the Galactic Union hung side by side. Seated at the far end was High Executor Thalzir. His posture was still, but there was something new in his eyes, respect. Jace approached with quiet confidence. "Executor," he said with a nod. Commander Thalzir replied, "It is good to meet you under a different sky." There were no guards in the room, no weapons, only words. They spoke for hours. Jace laid out Earth's proposal, a ceasefire agreement, formal recognition of shared space zones, and the creation of a joint peace council, an alliance not ruled by power, but by equal voices. Thalzir listened carefully. He spoke little at first, but when he did, his words were thoughtful. "Your people," he said, "came close to forgetting who they were, but they remembered in time. That is strength, not weakness." By nightfall, the documents were signed. Not a full alliance, but a beginning. The Peace Council would meet every cycle, its base shared on a neutral moon orbiting the gas giant Narration. Representatives from Earth and the Union would work side by side. As the delegates left the room, Kel smiled faintly. "You did it," she said. Jace shook his head. "No, we did it. The truth did it." Later that evening, a final public broadcast was held. Jace stood before the people of Earth once more, not in uniform, but in a simple jacket, his rank badge removed. He spoke plainly. "We made a mistake. We were deceived. But we faced that mistake. We corrected it. That's what makes us stronger. Not perfection, but honesty." He paused, looking into the camera, eyes steady. "We lost a great leader. Chancellor Elara Voss believed peace was worth everything. She was right. We honor her not just with words, but with choices. We can rebuild. We can do better. And we will." The broadcast ended. Across the planet, people cheered, not out of victory, but relief. War had been stopped before it consumed everything. Jace returned to the balcony one last time that night. The stars were out, bright and clear. Tempest 1 hovered quietly in low orbit, its engines cold, its weapons powered down. It was a ship of war, but for now it would sleep. Kel stepped up beside him, silent for a long moment. "What happens now?" she asked. Jace took a slow breath. "Now we start again." Carefully, the two of them stood in silence, watching the lights of Nova Gaia flicker back to life, street by street, home by home. Behind them, the council chambers were empty. The fighting was done. The world had chosen a new path, not one of fury, but of forgiveness. And far above, the galaxy watched not in fear this time, but with quiet respect.